Good morning, everybody. Stu Smith here, going live. Happy Monday. Hope you guys are well. This is our live Q&A show that we do on Mondays and Tuesdays. And while you guys gather, we're going to chat a little bit about something that many people who are new to training go through, and that is being what is called a hard gainer. So a lot of young folks who are first lifting and they want to get bigger and they just can't. And they need to realize two sayings that might help you remember the process to actually do this. One of them is if you want to be big, you got to eat big and lift big. That's one. Been using that since the 80s. The other one is one of my favorite acronyms for SEAL is sleep, eat, and lift. A couple studies that came out, and I got this study from Nick Behringer's uh, Instagram. He broke it down on uh, how to gain weight, a couple studies. And we also did a podcast. If you haven't seen that, check out the podcast. I have it up on this YouTube channel. I think I posted it up on Instagram the other day, maybe a section of it. Can't remember what I posted on Instagram. Might be on the Reels, might not be. But it's also where you get your podcast. The Tactical Fitness Report podcast discusses how to gain weight when you just can't gain weight. And for a lot of young people who are still growing, it is a challenge. It is absolutely one of those things where you just can't eat enough to gain weight. And when you eat like a normal human, you lose weight. It happens. I can't tell you how many years that I was a hard gainer. I mean, I started working out when I was 13 years old, so 43 years now, and been pretty consistent with it ever since. And I have to say, probably from 13 all the way to 18, it was just one of those struggles. And it's going to be because you're also still growing. You need a lot of extra calories. You need to sleep well and you need to lift properly. So here's some quick things that I wrote this article. I put it up on military.com today. It'll be up later on, but I also did a podcast on it. And here are three things that you need to remember if you want to gain weight. And you got to remember that SEAL acronym, sleep, eat, and lift. So studies show that you can not gain up to 60%. So you lose the potential to lose that muscle, and actually 60% muscle loss by not sleeping more than 6 hours. So less than 6 hours puts you in a catabolic window that it's hard to gain weight, period. So you got to sleep more. You got to eat more. What's that mean? Usually, if you just want to gain a pound a week, anything more than that, to be honest with you, starts turning into junk bulk, where you're just putting on fat and muscle, which is fine if you need to do that, depending on your sport you're preparing for instance. I was in that category, just getting big for football, but I also wanted to get strong. Um, so I didn't really care if I put on 1 pound or 2 pound a week. I just needed to do that. And that requires, after all your living, after your exercise calories that you burn doing that, if you're a young kid still growing, chances are that total daily energy expenditure is going to be in the ballpark of 3,500 calories, maybe 4,000, depending on your size. And then you really have to put on top of that another 500 calories just to gain a pound a week. So, depending on where you are, you can figure it out. Read the article. because I put in some links for little calculators that help you determine your BMR, your basal metabolic rate, and your TDEE, total daily energy expenditure. And you can definitely see um, how many calories, ballpark calories, you need to add a day in order to gain weight. Now, flip side is true for people like me who are trying to lose weight and not gain weight. I have to watch out. Those extra 500 calories can really, and my TDEE is lower now because I'm older than I was when I was a hard gainer. So I have to really combine exercise and portion control in order to lose weight. You have to do the same thing. Your portion control is just the opposite. It means second helpings, means extra calories and shakes. So once again, the three things, I'm going to close with this. You need to sleep well, over 6 hours a night. You need to eat extra. So second helpings as well as shakes after meals, of some sort, at least one meal, add extra calories. Go to bed with a big glass of milk and a peanut butter sandwich. I put some very affordable things in there too, as well. Something that helped my son was Carnation Instant Breakfast in a shake. Um, and he did those in the morning, did those at night, put an extra 500 calories into his day. And he went from 6'3", 140, because he grew 8 inches in a year in 8th grade, to 6'3", 195, 200 by the time he graduated high school. So you got to be patient as well. So sleep, eat, and lift. And if you're going to lift to put on muscle, that means a hypertrophy program where you're putting up the reps, 10 or 10, 12 reps or more, but you don't want to go too high over 20 because that can, help you burn muscle too much. So somewhere between that 12 and 20 rep range, and rest 2 to 3 minutes per set, because that has also been shown to help you add muscle, get a little bit of rest after those sets. So there it is. Sleep, eat, lift. That's all you got to remember. All right. It's easier said than done, I promise. All right. So that's enough on the hard gainer process. Wrote an article on it last week or today, and we did a podcast on it last week. You can get more details. It's great to have Nick Behringer on. If you don't follow Nick Behringer over on Instagram, you should, because he's got a lot of great studies, not just nutrition, but fitness, and he breaks it down in a way that is very helpful, to a point where he gives me great ideas to write about, and I just tag him in every single article that I write because of his breakdown makes it so awesome. All right, first question. Hey, Stu, what are your thoughts on UCT? I'm assuming you mean underwater construction team, because we had a UCT guy in our buds class, and he was great. Great diver, was our LPO, awesome guy, finished buds. Yeah. So I think it's a great job and a great skill. I mean, if you get out and you're an underwater construction guy, underwater welder, big money, big money. I have a buddy who swims an 8 with breaststroke and a 10 with side stroke. How come you recommend CSS for open water swims? Well, you're swimming with fins in open water swims. But I'll tell you this, I also recommend CSS for pool swims, just because not everybody's a great breaststroker. Some people who grew up swimming are great at breaststroking. Some people who are land athletes have hips better designed for scissor kicking. So, not sure what your question even means, to be honest with you. Hey, Stu, what do you think a good baseline for all compound lifts before shipping to buds? Great question. I actually have that in a list. It's called in fact, I'll put it in the comment section. It's a assessment tool I use. We even did a podcast on it. I'll put it over here on YouTube as well. It's a great article, and it just gives you a good ballpark figure on not just lifts, but the calisthenics, the running, the swimming, all that stuff. So it goes through the PST, goes through 3 mile runs, 4 mile runs, depending on what military service you're in. Swims with fins, treading water, weight vest pull ups. I know that's not part of your big three, but it's part of my big four. 15 plus with 25 pounds, solid. Body weight bench press, not 1 rep max. No one cares about your 1 rep max, to be honest with you. Body weight bench, 15 plus. Deadlift, 1 to 5 reps of 1.5 times your body weight. That's solid. And squats, 1.5 times your body weight. 5 reps. 1 to 5 reps. 1 to 5 reps. Five is better. So chest carry lunges. Here's another one. Chest carry lunges with 40 pounds in your arms like this for 400 meters, nonstop. Even have hang clean in here, grip test, different workouts that also apply. Check that out. It'll give you a good tool to go by. But a quick answer is you don't need to be in 1,000-pound club to go to buds. I would say if you're a guy my size, 185 to 195 when I was that age, if you could do, trying to think what I was doing. Because I came from a powerlifting background, so I had like a 1,200-pound lift total at one point. But by the time I went to buds, it was down significantly. But I didn't care because I needed to be an endurance guy. So I was still doing probably like 315, could still do 400, could still do 400 deads. So that's still over 1,000. But like I said, I came from that background. Yeah. You don't need to be 1,000-pound club. My advice would be, if you do your body weight, so let's say you're 185 pounds, you're 185 on that total, but you can do it 15 plus times. If you're deadlifting 1.5, that's going to put you at, what's that? 3? Not quite 300, not quite 300 for the other. 5 reps. That's good enough. In fact, if you checked out an article I just wrote, in fact, you guys will love this. I just wrote an article on that Bud study that they did a while back on how all these exercises that you just mentioned and I've been mentioning, how they rank in Hell Week graduation. So it has deadlift numbers. It doesn't have squat numbers in there. It has body weight bench. It has weighted pull-ups, PSTs, shuttle runs, things like that. All those scores for over 2,000 Buds candidates. And how did they do at Hell Week? And it shows you their scores, some of the best scores, some of the worst scores. Did they make it through Hell Week? Did they not make it through Hell Week? It's all over the place, to be honest with you. But it does show that it really comes down to being a good swimmer, good runner, and have some lower body strength and durability. So deadlift was part of that. And you can see sit-ups is a part of it, push-ups, weighted pull-ups. You can see where the greater percentage of graduates scored well on those activities. It's a great test. It's a great study. So check it out. It's on that link, and I linked the actual study to it, all these charts in there. What I did, I just wrote an article about just how the PST events rank you with percentage of Hell Week graduation. I've been doing the CSS for a couple of weeks, but my time is quite slow, roughly 1.25 per 50. Yep, that's normal. I find that I can't glide for long after a scissor kick, so I do 10 or so kicks per 25. Yeah, you shouldn't do that. My advice is there's an article I wrote called CSS Help, Fix Your Kick. Fix Your Kick. If you Google that in the Google machine, it'll pop up, and you need to follow that advice in there, whether that is working in scissor kicks, it's practicing scissor kicks with a kickboard, it's working on your streamlined body position because that could be putting on the brakes as you recover those arms way out here, and then you look like a plow instead of a torpedo. That could be a problem. My advice is send me a video and I can probably break it down for you in about a minute of just watching you swim 50 yards. So I would say if it's, yeah, 50 yards, that's fine. But one kick per stroke. Don't add a whole bunch of flutter kicks. That's just going to make you tired and probably affect the rest of your PST as well. Any last minute tips for psoas? No, man, just go there. Be good. Just be a good guy. Be a good teammate. Help people out. You know, whatever your strengths are, you might find somebody with the same weakness. That's advice, encouragement. Those things are always helpful. Because you just want to be a good guy that gets along with everybody and can actually be useful under a boat and be useful under the log. So there may be a time. Put it this way. Here's one of my favorite quotes to give people as they're about to go do that hard week or that hell week. Is at this point you probably don't have time to get stronger, even if it's a couple of weeks. You don't have time to get faster. Just physiologically, it's just not possible in this short of time, right? You've done all the work you need to do. Now it's just kind of like taper off, go ready, well rested, well tested. But here's the quote. It goes, you can't get faster, can't get stronger, but you can get tougher. So there's going to be a time when that occurs. You realize I can't get any faster, can't get any slower right now, or can't get any stronger right now. I just have to get tougher. So let that stick in the back of your head whenever you start to doubt yourself or you start to feel the burn of whatever you're doing. There's only one thing to do: get tougher. And that's purely mental. Never quit mindset. Get tougher. Hey, Stu, did my CFA at the Naval Academy during summer seminar. I want to get it better. Your push-up tips helped, but I still want to do better. Any more helpful tips on push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, mile? Yeah, I have a ton of tips on those. In fact, if you look in articles on, it's called the CFA Clinic Stu Smith. That's what I want you to type in to the Google machine and it pops out. Check this out. Here's the article, and it walks you through all the events and how to crush them. Everything from the basketball toss to the mile run. And it's a good one. So check that out. I'll put it over here on YouTube and the thing over there. But if you just type in Stu Smith CFA Clinic, it should pop up. Let's see. Is there a difference in your phase 2 book when it says goal mile pace versus goal pace? Not really. I usually leave that goal mile pace as an option because there's 2 goal paces that you need to learn. You need to learn a 6-minute pace for the mile and a half, and you need to learn a 7-minute pace for the 4-mile timed run. Whichever one you're having trouble with is where you should focus. And it's good to have that 7 minute mile, just under 7 minute mile. So instead of being 28 minutes on a 4 mile timed run, you're somewhere in the 27s, low 27s even. That's going to put you in good stead. In fact, if you read that article that I mentioned about the 4 mile timed run and Bud's events and how you rank, the perfect pace for the most people getting through Hell Week was right at that 27, 30, 28 minute time. Most people who did that were statistically uh, better off being a graduate from Hell Week. So it's kind of up to you. And everybody's goal pace is different, but I try to get everybody to that. My definition of goal pace is, let's say you're running an 8 minute mile. Your new goal pace now is to get a minute per mile faster. So now your 400s and 800s need to look like a 7 minute mile, even though you're running an 8 minute mile, and be in that little window of, 145, 150. That'll put you at that 730 zone every time you hit that quarter mile, or what is it, 315? My brain's melting. For the 800, 315 would be a 630, so 320-ish. Yeah. Brain's fried. 330. Sorry. 330 is a 7 minute mile for 800. Ooh, man, duh. So somebody says my mile time was 9:30 and my push-ups 16, pull-ups 0. Yeah, you got the good news is you can keep taking this test or practicing this test. My advice would, don't take it again until you're crushing it, right? Don't waste people's time, but you need to practice that test and crush that thing and then submit those scores whenever you test officially again with one of your coaches. But yeah, I mean, we have programs. If you read that article, it will guide you where you need to go. There's a CFA program. There's workouts in that article that will help you with all of those activities as well. Let's see. Hey, Stu, do you know that Devil Pups is in Camp Pendleton, California? Do you think it is good for finding what path you want in military? I go next week with a PFT scores 300 out of 400. Hey, man, good job. Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, Sea Cadets as well as Devil Pups, I think they're great high school programs that will give you a taste of military life and military training that I think a lot of people could use. And regardless if you decide to serve or not, it's still a great activity to do when you're young. But I think it's probably going to inspire you even more. Those things are that fun and that cool, and if you have an inkling of service at all, those little programs are a good time. Air Force has them too. You can become a pilot, in the Air Cadets. Is that what it's called? Can't remember what it's called. Anyway, absolutely. Will dips help with push-up capacity? Sure. I think weak triceps are holding my push-ups back. Then absolutely. Dips are a great one. So's overhead press. For that matter. Civil Air Patrol. That's it. Yeah. Not Air Cadet. What I call them? Air Cadets. Now they're Space Cadets. Yeah. No, just joking. Um, Another question is, what do you believe separates a person who trains really hard and an operator? Well, I mean, you can be in great physical shape and not be able to pick up the tactical skills that are required. And you get those first chances after Hell Week. It starts turning into less of a physical grind because you're not carrying boats and logs anymore. You got rid of those after Hell Week. Now you're diving, you're learning how to swim straight, and next phase you're going to be doing explosives and patrolling and shooting. There's a lot of people that are great physical shape but can't hit a bullseye on a target. You know, that's part of it. You might be a great team player, but if you can't do any of that, chances are, your life may be short in that world. Um, but you also need to be a good team player as well. Yeah, good question. 50 plus guy, long past any military career, but I do a fair amount of open water ocean swimming. Is there any benefit to learning switching to CSS for this? Currently do basically a freestyle ish. Well, here's the deal. I've taught the CSS to many competitive swimmers, especially triathletes, because something that happens to triathletes is they inevitably wreck on a bicycle, and then they jack up their shoulder or their elbows hurt from getting in that bike position, and they lose an arm, right? They could their left arm or their right arm, whatever, it just hurts to pull it out of the water and do it. So what I do with those folks is I put them on whatever side that's hurt. That's their bottom arm with that side stroke, because that bottom arm doesn't really have to do anything. It's more of like a little breaststroke skull. And then your good arm, you got that full freestyle catch, turn to breathe, kick and recover, underwater recovery, and it's pretty solid. So, is there a benefit? Maybe, if you need it for the shoulders. But I always think a diversity of strokes is very helpful, whether you're swimming or treading. So I try to teach some people who are just good at scissor kicking. I'll try to teach them the breaststroke kick and the egg beater for treading. Same for swimming as well, just to give them a little diversity, so to speak, in their options, because things happen. You might catch a cramp in your hamstring and you need to go into a different kick. Um, Instead of using a scissor kick, you might want to go into a breaststroke kick. Use more of your inner thigh muscle if that hamstring is getting tight on you. So that's where I think it is a benefit. Just adding another thing to do. I have personally have done competitive swims, and I'll swim hard freestyle. And then there's always a time when, I inhale water, or I'm coughing. So I'll switch to side stroke. I'll catch my breath a little bit, using that. So instead of stopping, I'm still moving. Um, so yeah, CSS or elementary side stroke, either one are a good like pairing with the freestyle. Hey Stu, I'm USNA mid, currently in SAR school. Fun. Rocket fins really hurt my ankles and shins. How do I help shin health? Well, I will say this. I always tell people, if you haven't swum with rocket fins or jet fins and you're about to start a program that requires it, you just kind of hurt yourself because of what's happening. It takes a good 3 to 4 weeks for you to kind of get used to swimming with fins. And what we do is we swim with fins on leg days. So twice a week at least, we're swimming with fins, mile and a half, um, every week, just so our ankles get a little more pliable. My advice is this: while you're going through this, ankles are going to hurt, shins are going to hurt, but it's mainly due to ankle mobility. So stretch those ankles, stretch those shins. And how you do that is with a ballerina's point. So what we do in you might have seen some of my pictures where I'm doing mobility day. is I sit on my shins and my toes are pointed behind me, and I put my butt right on my heels. And the thing that I look for when I start to see people do that one, do I see any daylight under their foot? Because if I do, if I see like a little curve here at their ankle versus being flat up against the floor, that just tells me your ankles are really tight. So you got to work on loosening those up. So focus on doing a couple of things. Get a soft foam roller, kind of massage those shins. Um, something we use too is don't have one here, is a car buffer, little vibrating hand tool, and just massage our shins, massage our ankles, and um, it will also help with shin splints. Zeno over here says sitting on my shins was one thing that massively helped with shin splints. The main reason why is it stretches your ankle. A lot of ankle immobility causes shin splints and obviously ankle pain. So you just need to work on it and massage, foam roll those shins and ankles, and stretch them. I got a ton of stuff on my Instagram there showing you how we do that. All right, let's see. What's your opinion using CrossFit when being a young guy? And as I get older, switch to more bodybuilding type of workouts. Think it's a bad approach? No, I think that's a great approach. If you like working out, CrossFit, I don't have any problem with CrossFit. Only problem I have is when people say I'm doing CrossFit to prepare for buds or Army SF. I'm like, hey, that's great. Just use it as your warm up if you're going to do that, because you still need to swim, still need to run, still need to ruck, um, still need to do some activities that are specific to your selection. And if you're just relying on CrossFit for those things, that's where I have my problems with people doing CrossFit. But if it is your baby and that's what you love and that's what gets you to the gym, I'm all for it. And bodybuilding, same way. You get older, there's nothing wrong with maintaining your muscle mass. In fact, it's healthy. In fact, you will probably live longer if you can maintain your muscle mass from your 20s into your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. Keep on going. And that is probably one of the number one things for longevity is having muscle. Now, I don't recommend getting on the roids and going into bodybuilding and getting humongous, because that's, there's a lot of dead bodybuilders, people that use that stuff die in their late 30s, early 40s. So, yeah, just be healthy with it. Let's see what else we got here. Looks like what are ways to pace rucking? 1 minute shuffle run, 1 minute fast walking. That's a great way to do it. In fact, I tend to do it this way instead of so small. Do like a mile of 3 paces. So do a walk pace that is just I'm chilling out, I'm catching my breath. So it can be a warm up, can be whatever, it can be a catch your breath phase. It's conversational. So you're not killing it, but that's usually probably going to put you at that 15, 16-minute mile mark, which is a little slow. So you don't want to do that for too long. The other mile is the power walk, which can drop you under that 15. Usually I'm hitting like 13:30 per mile if I'm power walking. And then the next is a shuffle, like you mentioned, that short stride shuffle. And that can drop you down to, 10-minute miles pretty easily. But yeah, having, once again, a diversity of paces can help you maneuver a very long ruck that is multiple hours long. Yeah, there you go. Let's see what else we got here. Any more questions? Good morning on week 7 of your Marine Special Ops program. There's farmer carries upstairs. How can I substitute if I don't have stairs? Great question. I apologize if you don't have stairs. I've always, you can either just do it on land. So if I say up and down a flight of stairs, right? Let's say I say 5 times, then my advice is just farmer walk on land 50 meters. Right? 50 meters one way, 50 meters back. I think that's a um, good trade-off. Now, if you really want to do something, you can get on treadmill and uh, increase the incline up, or maybe even an elliptical for that matter, and try it that way, or a stair stepper if you got that. Let's see. Have you seen dudes go through RAS 27, 28 years old? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we got guys going through buds at that age. So completely doable. You just have to be smart with your recovery. So be diligent with getting your sleep when you have opportunities to sleep. Eat well when you can have the opportunity to eat well. And lick your wounds every day. Stretch, foam roll, massage tool, because you're going to need it. Take care of those feet. But that's the same advice I give everybody. But you just have to be a little more diligent, because you, compared to an 18-year-old who lacks a history of training, who lacks some maturity, makes up for it in their ability to recover so quickly. So they hardly have to do anything and recover quickly. That's just the way it is. Yeah. Mainly stay in shape for law enforcement. Yeah, I think that's a great way to do it. Any tips on avoiding plantar fasciitis? When I roll on a ball and ice my foot, it makes it worse. Is it because it's inflamed? Should I stretch it instead of rolling it? Well, great question, because I'll tell you this. Plantar fasciitis really hurts. And even when you're going through the massaging, it's going to hurt. Even if you don't have bad plantar fasciitis, it still hurts to foam roll, lacrosse ball, tennis ball, whatever you're doing on the bottom of those feet. It hurts. So I think you just kind of get used to it, and you have to realize that it is helping. Um, so keep doing it. Here's the problem when you ice your foot, though, is that fascia gets really tight, and now it's really hard to walk on your heels. So what happens in the morning is, you're sleeping, your foot drops. When you sleep, you're not sleeping like this, unless you put your feet up against the headboard or something, and your foot drops. So now everything relaxes in here, and it kind of gets to a position. So whenever you start walking in the morning and flex all that, or stretch all that, it really hurts. So you can't even put your weight on your heels in the first thing in the morning. However, if you give it a little bit of time, you slowly start able to stretch it out to a point where you can start walking on your heels. You can even, depending on your shoes, usually a thicker soled shoe will help. You can start running again, and it goes away. It goes completely away when you, usually, if it's not horrible, it goes away when you start running, and then after your run, it comes back first thing. Once it cools off, or you sit for a little while. So what I've always done is, when I was sitting and I knew my foot was kind of relaxing, is I put a lot of pressure on it, whether it was with a ball or even, a little thing that holds the wheel of a chair, like my little rolling chair here. It's got a little ledge there. I'd put my foot right on that and just grind on that thing to a point where I could have tears coming through my eyes. And then all of a sudden, it went away. So, a couple of things you can do. I wrote an article about this. You can find it. Plantar fasciitis, Stu Smith. Got a couple of them out there on that topic. And what I did to get over my own. And I went through physical therapy. I got inserts for my shoes. Another thing I did is I was wearing dress shoes at the time. So I put my running shoe inserts into my dress shoes. That helped tremendously because I think that's what caused it. I think running a high mileage over the summer, wearing dress shoes during the day, walking a lot, and my arches just started really hurting. That's how I think I got it. I could be wrong, but it makes sense to me in hindsight. So make sure if you're wearing dress shoes, they're good dress shoes with some inserts in it, some good um, good uh, arch support, and then some people even wear a boot to bed that pulls their foot back like this, so it doesn't have a foot drop at all. And then you wake up in the morning, it doesn't hurt in the morning. So sorry, that's a long answer, but it's one of those things that kind of deserve a little longer answer. But you can read it in the article, and I link a lot of physical therapy comments to it as well, videos. Could you give some advice for guys who are limited budget in regards to retaining calories preparing for SOF pipeline? Yeah. There's a couple things you can do. Like I said earlier in the show, something my son did was added carnation instant breakfast to his to a shake, and he just big thing of milk, threw a little protein in there, put some carnation instant breakfast, made it taste better. A lot more sugar in there as well as protein. Um, so that's one option. Something I could also do is mix in some nuts, peanut butter. I mean, it's not the cleanest thing to eat, but it's high calories. If you're working hard and young, it's not going to be horrible for you. Peanut butter is a good way to keep on mass. And if you check out the podcast that Nick Behringer and I did on being a hard gainer, we talk about a lot of these options of types of foods that you can eat. Because it comes down to two things. It comes down to money, but it also comes down to taste, especially if you're young and you're trying to help a young kid doing it and they don't necessarily like what they're about to eat. They have to really be dedicated to drink that stuff. But that's how we do it. And just don't skip on the meals. Something I do is I make my own burrito bowls. And if you really want to add calories, add the tortilla to it. I can make 10 burrito bowls for the price of 3 Chipotle burritos. So a couple things of chicken, beans, rice, right from the store. Put it together. In fact, didn't do a podcast on it, but I did a post on it when my son went to college 3, 4 years ago, and he started cooking in his room. Um, Instead of me just showing him how to do it, and I just reinforced it with a post in meme language that just broke it down how to do that, and it was really good. You might be able to even find it. Let me see. Google Stu Smith burrito bowls Instagram because it's on my Instagram. You just have to find it. Damn, this Google machine's crazy. Come on, really? All right, so I'm going to share my screen with you because this is something that I think is somewhat life changing. And let me see where that is. my Instagram. Where are you? All right, where are you, dude? Star. For some reason it's not letting me go through it. Let me see. What are you guys seeing here? Nope, you're seeing me. How about this? You seeing that? Nope. Shit. All right, let me figure this out. For some reason it is not popping up like I thought it would. All right, so here's the deal. I'm just going to take the link and you guys can check it out. So I'm going to put this in the comment section. You guys link it. I'll put it over here on the Instagram as well. Let's see. Yeah, I wanted to show this to you because it was kind of a cool way to do it. It's pretty cheap. I think I got it for. I didn't put the money in there, but it worked out really well. So anyway, there it is. That's what I do. Burrito bowls, peanut butter and banana sandwiches, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, big glass of milk. Go nuts. Are your workouts in your Army Ranger SFAS to be done all at once or throughout the day? Well, if you can't do it all at once, then by all means make it a second workout. Because I will tell you this, we usually do the like calisthenics, weights, a little bit of the running in one set of the workout, and then if it's a ruck or something else, longer run or things like that, sometimes we'll do that in a second part of the day because we just don't have time. And especially if it's a swim where the pool schedule matters in your scheduling, you might have to swim at a different time than doing all the other stuff. What exercises have you done to strengthen the rotator cuff and wrists? Should I get a heavy wrist strap, 75 pounds, crash out? No, I mean, rotator cuffs for me, I got a lightweight shoulder workout that is therapeutic. In fact, I want you to check out lightweight shoulder workout, Stu Smith, and it is a rotator cuff focused workout. If I'll put it in the comment section over there, put it over here. But it's in pretty much all of my workouts. You'll see this lightweight shoulder workout. And you're like, what is this? Why am I only using 5 pounds? Because that's all you need. And it really works well for developing, all those little muscles that make up the rotator cuff. And there's 4 small ones that get burned out really fast. And you can do it safely with a 5-pound dumbbell. And it really helped. I've been doing it for 25 years when I separated this shoulder, 27 years now. And I just do it every upper body day. I'm doing 5-pound dumbbell work and it looks easy, but you do it. I'm telling you, it's hard. Anybody who's done them in this chat can probably chime in and say, yeah, it's harder than it sounds. Is it possible to reestablish muscle in your 50s? Absolutely. Turn 50 in August and have muscle decline and last several months. Yeah, it does. I mean, everything like we started off this show with, sleep, eat, and lift, requires sleep, requires eating well, and also requires lifting. And if you're trying to gain muscle, a hypertrophy program is probably a better option for you. You can also do it with calisthenics as well. I've seen people gain muscle with calisthenics because that's kind of in the range of muscle development, 12 to 20 reps. It's a great workout. Pushes that endurance, muscle stamina side of the equation as well, but it will develop muscle mass. You just need to add in 2 minutes rest in between to really enhance it. In fact, I just wrote an article featuring all 3 of those topics from eating, sleeping, and how you lift. And I just put it up on military.com. It'll be up there later today because I just sent it to the editors. But I did put a little bit of that article in the description of this YouTube video. You can read a little bit of that as well. How many yards do you recommend swimming a week while preparing for buds? Usually we get 10 to 12,000 a week. We swim 5, sometimes 6 times a week. Um, and yeah, I'd say we're at 10 to 12,000. And I would say 4 to 5 of those 1,000 are with fins. What do you think about handstand push-ups and muscle ups as an exercise to build upper body strength for SOF? So sure, I don't have a problem with that. I don't like muscle ups though, be honest with you, just because I've seen people blow out their shoulder on muscle ups, especially bigger guys. I mean, if you think about that activity is really ideal for a gymnast who's, you know, 5'6", 140-pound dude that's just cranking out muscle ups. To put that onto a dude that is now 210, 200 pounds, that's asking a whole lot of one. You got to kip like a mother, and you're asking a whole lot of this. Sometimes I see guys, try that muscle up and they're not quite there, and they do this and then pop that shoulder. So be careful. I don't think it's necessary. I mean, and even the handstand push-ups, yeah, sure, you can try it, but military press would be just as good, I think, with dumbbells. Work on some stability out there. Overhead, one hand overhead lunges, great one. Two hand overhead squats with dumbbells, great one. If you want to build that same kind of stability in the shoulders. Is there a body weight range that sees most success through selection? Should you anticipate dropping some weight and fitness during basic? You're probably going to drop some fitness and weight during basic, sure, because you're just not eating and training like you used to, and you're working your ass off. So you're going to lose some weight. Probably, definitely lose some fitness. That's why guys at Navy boot camp just add workouts to their day, in order to do that. At least Army, Marine Corps, you're doing something physically demanding. It may not be ideal for your muscle mass, but you're still getting in good soldier Marine Corps shape. Whereas Navy and Air Force, a little bit easy to decondition in that environment because it's just a little less physically demanding. What body weight range? It really depends on your height. I've written an article on what's the ideal body weight for buds. And basically, it is the near maximum of the height body weight of every category, of every height, the maximum that you can do in the Navy and be right there at that maximum, but be muscle, not fat. So, like a 6-foot guy at 200 is really good, right? One 5'10" guy at 185, that's really good. But it's just a recommendation. So check it out. Got a few more questions and I got to bail. You guys are really asking the questions today. I appreciate it. For some reason, if I miss your question, please feel free to email me, stu@stusmith.com, because, I sometimes can't see. I got 2 screens going and 3 different places sending in email or questions. Did a mile swim, Evan says, with fins the other day for the first time. Extremely humbling. Not like the pool at all. Any tips? Yeah. In fact, I wrote an article on that. Swimming straight is probably your biggest issue when swimming in open water. Plus it's a little freaky too. Water's typically not clear as a pool, so it takes a little time to get used to not exactly seeing your hand whenever you slide it down across your body. That kind of sucks. But it takes a little time. Get used to it. Be safe when you do open water. Make sure there's no boats out there. Make sure that, if you can, be in a part of the water where it's just shallow. So what we do is we swim in the Chesapeake Bay, on Fridays after a run and a ruck. and we swim parallel to the beach. And that whole beach section, no kidding, is between 3.5 and 4 feet deep where we swim. So if anybody just gets tired or catches a cramp or worries about finishing, they just stand up and walk out. So if you're going to do that, just be safe with how you do it. That's the most important part. Everything else is just getting used to it. Are the workouts in your Army SF book? This one. Oh, you already asked that. Done in one session. For long rucks, are you bringing carbs? Absolutely. Electrolytes? Absolutely. Water? Absolutely. With you on your ruck, especially if it's hot and humid. You could probably get away with less electrolytes if you're not sweating so profusely. Like in our winter ones, I probably wouldn't bring electrolytes. In our summer ones, absolutely. Carbs, electrolytes, water, all three. If you're running 18, 20 miles a week, start to feel some stress on the ankle shins, go a week just using bike and pool mobility. Do you pick back up 18, 20 where you were at, build back up to it? It's kind of up to you. I would prefer maybe trying this instead of a whole week of zero impact. Try every other day with biking and pool mobility on the days in between runs. See if that helps. If that helps, you know, getting back to 18 to 20 miles is going to be pretty easy. You can just kind of maybe do 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 day off the following week, and then you're right back into 18, 20 miles that third week. But I probably wouldn't take a week off doing zero and then jump back into 18, 20. That's kind of asking for more of the same. So my advice would be maybe go 50%. If you take a whole week off, take 50% off your totals. And, that can be an every other day type of thing. Or you can just cut your runs in half and try to run every day. See how that feels. But regardless, I would probably do a system of 2 days on, 1 day off, do a mobility day, pool day, non-impact cardio day. 2 days on, 1 day off, mobility day, cardio day, non-impact cardio day. See how that feels. And then build back up to your mileage the next week. Somebody says I run 60 miles a week on sand, so it started acting up like crazy. Was plantar a common issue at Buds? 60 miles a week is a lot. I mean, I don't think you need to run 60 miles a week, and you definitely don't need to run 60 miles a week on sand. So, I mean, you kind of did that to yourself. But plantar fasciitis is absolutely an issue at Buds. So shin splints, so stress fractures, so is knee tendonitis. I mean, every overuse running injury is a thing at Buds. In fact, ITB used to stand for, iliotibial band. Used to stand for I tried Buds. It was coming. So 60 miles a week, I don't think is necessary. I mean, I'd probably drop it by 20, be honest with you, and see how that feels. Monty says, your problem is don't run 60 miles a week. Yeah, I would agree with you. Yep. Stu Smith burrito bowls need that recipe. Yep, it's in there, man. Check it out. It's easy too. Real easy. And if I use the cheap version as well, so I just use minute rice. But if you have a rice cooker, you can cook whatever rice you want. Cans of beans and shredded meat, steak or chicken. Good stuff. I still make them. In fact, I sponsor mids that come over on the weekends, and I make burrito bowls just for them, and they will eat 8, 10 burrito bowls while they're here. just fun for everybody. Wonder Stu, how many yards do you recommend swimming a week? Didn't I just answer that? I think I answered that. Yeah. Um, yeah. If you weren't here when I answered it, it's 10 to 12,000 meters per week. Yep. Zeno says lightweight shoulders has been amazing for me. Yep. Absolutely. Rising Junior, who is 5-year wrestler, looking to go down to officer SF route. How do I better prepare myself for running? Any workouts? Yeah, I mean, tons of workouts. You're a wrestler. That's awesome. You're pretty tough already. My advice is progress logically into running and rucking, especially going Army. I would go with this guy first. Ace the PFT, CFT, all those are in here. Plus a rucking progression, and then advance into this special ops, Army SF stuff. That's going to be helping you specifically address all the challenges that are in your future. You know, if you got a year to prepare for that, I think that's awesome. Let's see. Hey, Stu, I've been using your phase 1 workout book for Bud's prep. Any advice before getting into the book? Nope. Oh, turn the page. Turn that page into the thing and start reading it. And then turn it into the charts. Start doing those from top to bottom every day. Yep. It'll lead you in the right direction, I promise you. All right. I think this is the last question and I got to bail. So anybody else who has questions, sorry, just send them to me by email and I will answer them. How do you deal with forearm fatigue when doing pull-ups? Try to get 150 every other day, broken into sets of 20, 15, 10, but those last 40 feel impossible. You know, I like that. I like 100, 150 pull-ups, every other day. Don't do them every day because you're just asking for overuse injuries and joint pain. But a couple things, right? There's a couple ways to hold on to pull-up bar. There's that old false grip where you get your thumb under there and your curve. That's a great way to do it, but it eats up the forearm, especially for high reps. So I've kind of evolved over the years, and instead of doing that grip, put my thumb over here, kind of use a mountain climber grip, they call it, right? So I'm just kind of using the tops of my fingers here on that bar, and your forearms last so much longer doing it this way versus this way. So if you want to work on your forearms, do it this way. You want to work on longer lasting pull-ups, try them this way. Let me know how that works for you because I swear by it. And whenever I'm doing 150, 200 pull-ups in a workout, I do this. Whenever I'm just doing 50 to 100, I'll do the false grip. So let me know how that works for you. All right, guys, I got to go. It's been an hour. I'll be back tomorrow. Sorry, I missed a couple of these questions over here on Instagram. You guys go ahead and send those to me by email or DM me. Happy to answer them on the DMs. So, all right. Until tomorrow, I will see you.